Leah Beth told me not to do this, but I have to start off with a joke, and I think it's appropriate for today. What is the Wynn's favorite day of the week? Wednesday. Yeah. Good deal. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate the claps there. At least I didn't tell the other one, Leah Beth. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Kurt Baker. I'm the chairman of the board for the Lebanon Wilson County Chamber of Commerce. We're extremely excited to have Mayor Rick Bell here with us today to give us a State of the City update. It's something that we look forward to every year. And if I remember correctly, last year around this time was really one of our first back in-person events that we had with the Chamber. So a year later, look how much has changed, and now we got a packed room and excited for all of you to be here today. At this time, I'd like to introduce Scott Jasper with Wilson Bank and Trust to come and give the invocation for us.
Thank y'all. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the opportunity to gather today to have a conversation about our city. We just thank you so much for the city of Lebanon and just the things that are going on in our community, and we just ask that you'll continue to bless our community. We just ask that you continue to guide Mayor Bell as he continues to lead our city and the council and the things that are going on within our city. We also just ask that you just bless this food to the nourishment of our bodies and us to your service. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Scott. Much appreciated. At this time, Jeff Peterson, past chair of the Lebanon Wilson County Chamber of Commerce, is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good afternoon. If you would all stand and take the appropriate position. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Also, just like to give a round of applause to Panteros here in town for providing today's lunch. Panteros is a staple of our community, and we really appreciate Nick and Lisa and what they mean to all of us here in Lebanon and Wilson County in general. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Rusty Richardson to come to the stage from Cumberland University. Rusty is the Government Relations Vice Chairperson, and he'll take us the rest of the way today. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Kurt. Part of the role of the Government Relations Division of the Chamber is to help educate and improve communications with members of our community about how our government works. And today's program is a perfect embodiment of that mission to help you understand how the city of Lebanon is working. We do have a number of elected officials here, and I would like to ask them if you would please stand and be recognized, and thank you for your service. If you're a current elected official, give them a round of applause. Thank you for all you do. It's my pleasure now to introduce our guest speaker for the day, Mayor Rick Bell. He is a 1987 Lebanon High School graduate. He then earned an Associate of Arts degree and Business degree at Cumberland University, a Bachelor of Arts in History at Middle Tennessee State University, Master of Arts in Education at Cumberland University, and Master of Arts in History at Middle Tennessee State University. He is an active member of many community organizations, including the Cumberland Region Tomorrow, Empower Me Center, Fiddler's Grove Executive Committee, historian for the City of Lebanon, Historic Lebanon, the James E. Ward Agriculture and Community Center Management Committee, the Joint Economic and Community Development Board, Leadership Middle Tennessee, Leadership Wilson, Lebanon Regional Planning Commission, Lebanon Wilson County Chamber Economic Development Division, Rotary Club of Lebanon, Transit Citizen Leadership Academy, and the Wilson Bank and Trust Community Council. Do you wonder when he finds time to be mayor? Sometimes we wonder that. His employment history includes Lebanon Aluminum Products, Caradon, Better Built, and Cumberland University. He was sworn in as the city's 54th mayor in December of 2020. Rick and his wife Nicole are members of the Providence United Methodist Church in Mount Juliet and continue to be active in the community and chamber. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable, the Esteemed, the Prestigious Mayor Rick Bell.
I appreciate the introduction, Rusty. And what Rusty didn't mention was he and I worked together for a long, long time. So I really appreciate him saying those kind words because he knows me very, very well. Thank you to the Lebanon Wilson County Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event and allowing me the opportunity to speak to all of you today. And I want to have a special thank you for Bob and Pam Black for the Capitol Theater. Every time I come in here for an event, I think about when I was a kid, I actually sat on the front row right there and saw Star Wars for the first time. And and then when that big ship came over the screen, how awesome that was, especially on the front row. But I also think about this. I think about their investment in this building and the space that they've turned this into and how great this is for our city. And really, I believe that what they did was the first step in the revitalization of our square. And now when you walk around our square in our historic district, you see shops and offices and restaurants, and we have more to come. And I want to thank all those people who have invested in our square and historic district for all they've done. My mom has told me stories through the years about when she was a kid, her mom would bring her down to the square to shop. And they'd go around to all the stores, and they'd see people and talk to people. And she talks about how great it was. But I truly believe that our square now is greater than it was then. So I thank everyone for that. We're thriving. We're thriving here, but we're also thriving throughout the city. And that's because of you guys and your investment. Whether you're here representing a corporation or a small locally owned business, I thank you for what you've done for our city because your investment here is what's made our economy strong, and it is strong. Your investment here is what's made Lebanon have its own identity. It's also is what's made us have a unique quality of life. And I thank you for that, everyone in this room, for all that you've done for this city. A couple months ago, I was in a meeting, and someone there said that Lebanon was a bedroom community. And honestly, I took offense to that. We're not a bedroom community. To me, a bedroom community is a place where people live and sleep, but they go work somewhere else. And during the day, their population goes down. That's a bedroom community. We're not that. During the day, our population actually goes up. People come here to work. People come here to shop. People come here to eat. People come here for opportunity. And that's because of you guys. And because of what you do, it allows us at the City of Lebanon to do what we do, to offer the services that you and all the other citizens here need. And I'll just give you an example of that. Right now, our sales tax revenue is $3.4 million above our projections. Now, we still have 5 months left to post in this fiscal year, so we don't know where that number is going to end up. But right now, we're at $3.4 million above projections. And that's because people come here to do business. Now, to kind of give you an idea of what that means, that's 15% more than it was last year. And that's a 65% increase over the past 5 years. So, obviously, things are going well. Every month I have a meeting with our finance commissioner, Stuart Lawson, and he brings to me our latest sales tax data, and we go over it, and we look at what's happened in the past month, and we compare it to months in previous years, and we compare it to the months that just passed, and we get into the data, and we try to project what's going to happen next, and it's really an exciting meeting. I look forward to that meeting every month. But Stuart knows every time I'm asking the same question. Did we beat Mount Juliet? And every time, the answer is yes. And that's something a lot of people don't realize. Every month, our sales tax revenues are higher than theirs. Now, there was one December several years ago where around Christmas time, they were a little bit ahead of us. So I'll give them the credit for that. But every other month, we are the leaders in that. And again, that's thanks to you guys, because you're the ones who generate that. One of the things we also do in those meetings is we track spending. I really believe my most important job is putting a budget together, presenting it to council, but also tracking that budget through the year and making sure that spending is in line, that nobody gets ahead of the pace or is overspending what they should be doing. It's just like we do at home. We have a budget, we watch it as we go through it. So every month, Stuart and I, we sit down and do that because we know it's not our money, it's the people's money. And we need to manage that and spend it wisely, efficiently, conservatively, and do it in a smart manner. So those monthly meetings that Stuart and I have are very important. Again, they're very exciting. But time flies. It seems like it was just yesterday we were putting together last year's budget, the first budget I ever did. And last year we were able to actually lower our property taxes from 85 cents down to 68 cents. Now we did that because, as we all know, there were property assessments, property values went up, and we wanted to stay budget neutral in our revenues and make sure we didn't take advantage of that state assessment had been done. But we were able to do that last year. But when I say time flies, we're working on the budget again. I've been meeting with department heads, working on their individual budgets. They've been presenting to me kind of, what they need and what they want. And then once those meetings are done, I'll sit down with Stuart and we'll go over that and we'll compile a complete budget. And then we'll present that to council in work sessions, which you're welcome to come to. They're very exciting. We'll present that, and then at some point this year we'll come to an agreement. But we don't really know, where we're headed as far as sales tax revenues. Those are kind of projections. We kind of have to guess at those. But there is one thing we do know. This budget coming up, the 2022-2023 budget, is going to be around $95 million. Now, that's our general fund, but it also includes our enterprise funds, gas, water, wastewater, stormwater. But to give you an idea of how much we've grown, 10 years ago, the 2012-13 budget was $59 million. So in 10 years, it's almost doubled. Now, as I said, sales taxes, which you guys generate, they're really important. And that's something that we analyze and we look in very, very deeply because we have to have good projections on those. And here's one thing that we do know. Out of our top 10 sales tax, or 10 out of our top 15 sales tax producers are either grocery stores or building supply stores. That's why in the grocery store world, the Kroger expansion and the new Publix on 109 are so important because that's going to expand our sales tax base. Grocery stores are always going to produce. But the building supply stores, that's a different story. That could fluctuate. The economy could soften. Building could slow down. So we really need to be conservative in our projections because there are a lot of unknowns out there. So when we sit down and talk about the budget, one of the things that I don't want to do is go out there on the edge and get too far out there and make sure that we have projections that we know are good projections, they're conservative projections, and something we're going to be able to handle in the future. Now, talk about the economy softening and growth slowing down. A few weeks ago, I was at a meeting of the Greater National Regional Council. Mayors from throughout the region got together to talk and talk about issues in our prospective cities and share ideas. The National Chamber of Commerce have recently finished a study they presented to us, and in that study, they said over the next 5 years, 300,000 more people are going to move into the Nashville area. So is it going to slow down? It doesn't sound like it. But with those numbers coming in, we know that growth is coming. It's been here for a while. It's going to continue. And I promise you that the council and I recognize the urgency of managing that growth and not allowing it to get out of control. And over the past year, we've done some things and put some things in place to make that happen. Last year, we implemented the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is a guide to the future of the city, of what we're going to be and what we're going to look like as we move forward. And I appreciate the council voting to approve that. Now, in that comprehensive plan name, it says the date 2040. 2040 is too far away. I'm not real happy about that name because really I believe that comprehensive plan needs to be looked at about every 5 years because things are changing that quickly. We can't wait another 20 years to look at that again. So the comprehensive plan is an important guide for us as a mayor and a council of what this city is going to be as we move forward. Now, an important part of that comprehensive plan is the future land use plan. The future land use plan is a map that basically tells potential developers, this is what we would like to see go in this specific location. And sort of a sign where they can look at that and say, okay, if we're going to do something, this is where we need to go. Now, again, that future land use plan, it's not set in stone. That's where it is right now. It's just implemented. But it can always be changed. We can always go look at that and see if there needs to be alterations. But that's a very vital document when it comes to managing growth. Now, outside of that, there are some other items that we've put in place that I believe are important. And one of them is this. We have placed a time limit on specific plans. Now, specific plans is a word that a lot of you may not know, so I need to explain that a little bit. We call them SPs, so if I slip into SP, you'll know what that is. But a specific plan is something that the city council has really become, they've become to rely on that. Because when somebody comes in and asks for a rezoning, this really locks in what that development is going to be. You know, somebody comes in and asks for a zoning, sometimes the council's not comfortable. It could be a myriad of things. But in a specific plan, the city council actually approves every single detail of a development, not just lot sizes, building materials, landscaping, lighting, amenities, green space. They basically approve every detail. So it's something where the council can feel comfortable where when they approve this, they know what they're getting. Well, SPs are nothing new. Now, we're doing more now, but they've been around for a long time. And one of the things that I realized is that there were SPs that were approved 15 years ago, back before the housing market crashed, and they were never built. And now all of a sudden, 15 years later, they're being built. And this council really had nothing to do with that decision-making process. They just popped up. And I didn't really believe that was fair or right, that, to have something like that drop in people's laps. So what we've done is we put a time limit on SPs. So if construction has not started in 3 years, they have to go back through the process. Because the fact remains that decisions we make now, some mayor and council in the future, they might not like it. So we need to give them a chance to make decisions for themselves. And we believe this time limit is a way to make that happen. Another thing that we've done is create a zoning committee. A zoning committee is made up of citizens to look at our zoning codes and really tighten those up. You know, we have some zonings that allow numerous things. And when that comes through, somebody might present a plan, but could turn into something else. So they're working to tighten those up. And that really gives the city council two modes of defense. They have the SP, they have tighter zoning, And that way, they can feel comfortable either way they do it. So I think that's really important in managing growth. Now, there is another group that's very important in this aspect. That's the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is made up of citizens. It's a very tough job. They don't get paid, but they work very hard at it. And recently, they've wanted to take a bigger role and become more active. So I've created 2 subcommittees of the Planning Commission. One of those is the Specific Plan and Annexation Committee. Now, I just explained the specific plan, but I want to talk about annexation for a second and give you some stats. The city of Lebanon currently covers over 40 square miles. Now, compare that to some cities of similar population. Mount Juliet covers 25 square miles. Gallatin covers 32 square miles. So we cover a lot of area. And if we add more area, obviously that stretches our resources. It stretches our police of what they have to cover. It stretches our fire of what they have to cover. It stretches our utilities. And so we really need to take a hard look at annexations, which ones are good, which ones are beneficial, which ones are not. The annexation part of this subcommittee is really taking a deep dive into these annexations and really looking at them as far as, are they good? Are they bad? What's the decision here? Now, understand the Planning Commission is a recommending body. The City Council has the final say, but they are gathering information that is valuable for the City Council when they do make their final decision. And I believe that's really important. Now, another subcommittee that is part of the Planning Commission is called the Residential Development Committee. And this is a committee that really is looking to the future. What is our residential development going to look like? They're probably going to look at the future land use plan, really dig down to that and say, is this what it really needs to be? Do we need to make some changes at some point? They may look at density and what that's going to look like in the future and where it's going to go in our city. So that's a very important aspect of this too, because obviously as we grow, these are things we're going to have to look at. We need to get ahead of it and look at it now. And if we don't, we may get overwhelmed. There is one other aspect of growth, though, that is a little bit outside of that I do want to mention. We are really looking hard at our impact fees. We're going to get a consulting firm to look at those and see, are they high enough? Are they being spent in the right places? Are developers really kicking in what they should? That's one of our goals here at the City of Lebanon, is to make sure that developers pay their share. We do not want to put this expense on our ratepayers and the people who already live here. If we're going to expand our utilities, if we're going to expand our services, we need to make sure that the impact fees are in a good place, that the people who are already here, they benefit from it, just like developers do, but the people who are getting the true benefit, they're the ones who are paying for it. Now, obviously, our growth is not just residential. We have business and industrial growth as well. Just recently, Tritium announced that they were coming to Lebanon. Tritium is an Australian company that produces chargers for electric cars. What's different about these chargers? They can fill up a car in 15 minutes. Their first manufacturing facility in the United States is going to be right here in Lebanon at the Novamet Tech Center. And I'm really excited about that for several reasons, one of which is it's going to be 500 jobs, 500 good-paying jobs. They're going to be high-tech jobs, which is great. And that's what we need here. But also I'm excited about the fact that they are coming to the heart of our city. They're not going out there on 840, or out on the outskirts. They're coming here to where Toshiba used to be. And I think that's great because that means they are truly a part of our community. They are here. They are in the midst of who we are. Another company that's invested in Lebanon is REI. They make outdoor gear. They're currently building a facility here on 231 South. World Cane out on Sparta Pike. They're doing a $200 million expansion. And it was just announced this week that Per Mobile is doing a $15 million expansion. So our business aspect is healthy. It is growing. But I know this is a double-edged sword. A while back, there was an announcement about a company coming here and how many jobs they're going to produce. And I got a text from a friend who runs a business here in town. And he said, man, that's a great announcement. Where are they going to find those people to fill those jobs? And he's right about that. Bringing more people here, that's more competition for workers. And it takes me back to something my dad used to say. Some of you may remember my dad used to own a manufacturing facility here in town. And I remember him being frustrated because he would receive all the time letters and phone calls from other cities and other counties offered him incentives to move his operation there. He wasn't going to move because this was home. But what frustrated him was all these other people were willing to give him all this stuff. And he felt here at home, people took it for granted because he was already here. And so I want you to know that we do not take you for granted. The people who are here, who have built this city and built this economy, we do not take you for granted. And that's why I'm proud that Lebanon has invested in Wilson Works. Wilson Works is part of the Lebanon Wilson County Chamber of Commerce. My wife, Nicole, sits on the board. She was part of it from the ground floor. Sarah Haston, the Economic Development Director, she serves on the board as well. And this is an organization run by Dana Chumley who's out there training our workforce. Make sure we build our workforce so you have people to fill those jobs. And the people moving here have people to fill those jobs as well. It's a very valuable tool that I'm glad we support, and I urge everyone to support it because it's important for all of us. Growth also places strain on infrastructure. That's something I get asked all the time, what's happening with infrastructure? And most times when people ask about that, they're really talking about traffic. You know, that's something that affects us all the time. It affects me. I'm just going to read some things here that we've done over the past year to improve our transportation system. We received 10 grants worth over $16 million for transportation. We've had 5 new traffic signals completed or in the design and construction phase. 46 traffic signals are planned for operational or pedestrian improvements. We've had 9 sidewalk projects. We've completed 9 road projects. They're either extensions, widening, or involve turn lanes. And the good thing about those projects, all 9 of them were either funded by TDOT or developers. We didn't pay for it. We have 9 upcoming railroad crossing improvements. Now that's sort of the general list, but now I want to give you some details. Our CMAQ grant brought in $5.5 million, and what that's going to do is computerize our traffic signals on our major thoroughfares, East and West Main, 231 North and South, Badura Parkway, and Hartman Drive. And there's going to be a control center with someone sitting there watching all the traffic signals, watching traffic around town, and they can alter the traffic signals to make traffic run smoother. So one person is going to sit in a room and watch all that. And as a side note, that central control room is going to be in our Public Works building. The Public Works building used to be the police station. The police moved out. Public Works went in and renovated. And I'm proud to say that renovation came in $23,000 under budget. So we are trying to be economical in everything we do. Also, we have the 231 North Sidewalk Project. That was 4 grants totaling about $2.6 million to build sidewalks up in that area where there are a lot of pedestrians. One thing that I'm really excited about that's really important is the traffic signal at Carver Lane. The traffic signal at Carver Lane is going to be fully developer paid for. It's going to involve widening, it's going to involve turn lanes, and it's going to cost around $1.6 million. And that's going to provide a safe way for people in those neighborhoods to be able to get out, because I promise you it's a problem right now. Now, there is one thing connected to that I do want to address, because I get asked this question all the time. When you're coming off Badura Parkway, the bypass, and turning right on West Main, right there around Arby's, people always ask me, why can we not turn right on red? Here's why. It provides a break in traffic for people in Carver Lane to get out. That if people were able to turn right on red, the flow of traffic would never stop and they would never have a chance. Once this traffic signal at Carver Lane is put in, we can all turn right on red. I just want you to know that. The railroad crossings I mentioned, they're 90% funded by TDOT. A few other projects we have coming up, Briskin Lane on the east side of town is going to be widened. That's a TDOT project worth $2.7 million. There'll also be a traffic signal where Briskin Lane hits Sparta Pike. We have the Cedar City pedestrian improvements, which is $1.1 million. And that's putting sidewalks along North Calcites Avenue and also improving 6 traffic signals. But there is one improvement coming that I can't take credit for. I wish I could, but it's going to be important for the city as a whole. Because of the Tennessee State Fair now being located in Lebanon, TDOT is going to redesign the Sparta Pike interchange with I-40, and they're also going to widen Sparta Pike from the interstate up to Carthage Highway. They're doing it for the State Fair, but obviously the rest of the year it's going to help us out as well. So I really appreciate their investment in our city too. Now, not all infrastructure is above ground. We also have some things underground too, like gas lines and water lines and sewer lines. Margaret Washko is our new utilities director. She is currently creating a 5-year plan of growth for that infrastructure. She will be presenting that to the City Council later this year. But I think one of the things that's important about this, for you to know, is that we want this to be as developer funded as possible, as I mentioned earlier. And it's already happened. And I'll give you an example. There are 2 developments going to South Hartman Drive. They're going to be really important to the future of our city. Those 2 developments combined are giving $12 million in sewer construction and upgrades down South Hartman. And other properties will be able to benefit from that as well. When we created this utility department, we also included sanitation. Sanitation is one of the most important aspects of what we do. And the guys who work in that department do a great job. I cannot thank them enough for what they do. Because all of us who work in the city, you may not see us. Some of us work in offices. Some of us are out here working in the public, but you may not see us very often. The guys who work in sanitation, they go to every house and every business every week. They affect us on a personal basis because they come and pick up our trash. And what they do is invaluable. And we want to do everything we can for them. One of the things we're doing is we've invested in software that's going to rearrange our sanitation routes. Right now, honestly, they're kind of all over the place. And this will make them more efficient. And that efficiency is going to save us hundreds of thousands of dollars. You'll be hearing more about that as time goes on because it may affect the day your trash gets picked up. And we'll make sure everybody knows that. But I want you to know we're doing it for the betterment of serving you. That's the whole point behind it. Now, we also have some other things that are going on as far as infrastructure goes. Before I became mayor, the city council identified that we need to work on drainage in neighborhoods throughout the city. And they took stormwater money to put toward that. And it's been in the design phase up until this point. Soon we'll start working on drainage issues around Cumberland Drive, West Spring Street, Hill Street, the Mulberry Burdock area, and also around Sam Houston School. Now, we understand there are other areas that have issues, and we're going to work on those as well. But these were identified as the ones that should go first, and we're working on those. Now, another thing that's important for a city, it's important for me, I know it's important for all of you, is our quality of life. And quality of life can be defined in many different ways. One aspect of quality of life is restaurants. Over the past year, we have announced some new restaurants coming to town. Whataburger is coming. When we announced Whataburger on Facebook, over 300,000 people saw that. We actually made this evening news in Knoxville with that announcement. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. McAllister's is coming to the old Applebee's building. And McAllister's is a high-level sandwich shop. But here's why I think it's important. It's taking a building that's been sitting empty, that's frankly become a blight, and it's going to reimagine it and renovate it, and it's going to become productive again. And it's going to put great food in it as well. So that's something that's important. Also, we just announced that Chipotle is coming, which is something I've been looking forward to for a long time. But as I say that, I want to say this. There's hardly a day goes by that somebody doesn't come to me and say, hey, we need more sit-down restaurants. We hear you, I promise. I want more sit-down restaurants too. And we are working hard to get them here. Now, when people ask me that, I always ask a question back. What restaurant would you like to see come to Lebanon? The answers vary, but I ask that question for a reason. One is I want to know if we're already talking to them, and secondly, if we're not talking to them, I want to put them on the list. So I'm going to ask you today, if you have a business card or a piece of paper or something, I would like for you, before you leave today, to write down the one restaurant you would like to see come to Lebanon and give it to us before you leave. Because if we're not already talking to them, I promise you we will add it to the list and we'll do everything we can to get them because we want them here. We truly do. But I do hear a lot about not having sit-down restaurants. I do. So one day, Sarah and I, we did an experiment. We decided to do a study of all the restaurants we have in town. And we learned that we actually have over 50 sit-down restaurants. Now, the way we defined that was they could not have a drive-through. You actually had to go inside and sit down and eat at a table. People would come and take your order. Now, we didn't include Subways. We know they don't have drive-throughs. But we have over 50 sit-down restaurants. Now, obviously, they're not all chains. What that means is the vast majority of them are locally owned. So I do urge you to go find those. Those locally owned business, people who have invested in our community, people who had a dream to build a restaurant, and go patronize their places and eat there because they're working hard too. Locally owned restaurants, I think, are important. I think they make a town unique. We can go a lot of cities and eat at some of the chain places, but when you have a locally owned place, that's something that's unique to a certain city. That's something that's different for us. It's something that draws people from other cities. And that's one of the things that's been identified as an area of growth. It's people who want to do this for a living, is to help them do that. Now, this is something else that I can't take credit for, but I'm going to mention it. Historic Lebanon, Kim Parks, through a grant, has gotten involved with an organization called Proof. And Proof has come to Lebanon, and they set up classes to help people who have this dream learn how to open and operate a restaurant. They take them through all the details. And soon there's going to be a place here in town, a restaurant with a kitchen where they can practice, and we can go there and eat. Now, we may go to that building for a month, and it may be one kind of food. And then they move on to open their own place. And the next month, it may be another kind of food. But it's something to help people get started. It's something that people who want to invest in this community, who want to be part of this and begin this dream, this is a way that we can help them. So I thank Historic Lebanon for doing that. You know, another part of quality of life is parks and recreation. One of the jewels of our city's crown, I believe, is our Jimmy Floyd Family Center. It's something that's been here for a long time. Tim Hill has been the director of that center for many, many years. He's retiring next month. And Alex Major, I've chosen him to take over as director. Alex has worked there since he was in high school. And Alex has come in with a lot of energy, a lot of great ideas, and really bring that Jimmy Floyd Center back to the forefront, because that is truly something that's a big part of our quality of life. If you haven't been to the Jimmy Floyd Center in a while, I do urge you to go over there. It's a great facility. But we're also working on other aspects of park recreation. The new Cairo Bend Park is still under construction. It's going to open soon. That was a public-private partnership, and I truly appreciate that investment. We also have plans to build a park on C.L. Manier Boulevard in the eastern part of town. That's going to be the City Council agenda coming up. But something that's really important is the City Council just approved us to go find a consultant to help us with a park and greenway master plan, to take our parks, to study them, connect them with greenways. We already have some, but put the whole network together, and also identify future places where we can put parks and greenways. Now, this is important because in order to do it, you have to have a plan. But it's also important that in order to get grants for parks and recreation, you have to have this. So we've been hindered up until this point. So this should help open up some monies for that aspect of our city as well. So parks and rec, that's really important to quality of life. Now I'm going to shift gears for a second. I'm going to take you back to the year 2001. 2001 is obviously a very important year in history, September 11th. It's a day that we all remember where we were and what we were doing when that happened. It is truly a date that changed our history and changed the world. But I also want us to think about 2001 as a year, as a whole. And I want you to think about where you were that year. Where were you in your life, in your job? I know where I was. That summer, Bill McKee called me and asked me if I wanted to teach history at Cumberland. And that fall, I started. And for 19 years, I taught history there. That's where my career began in 2001. Here's some other things about 2001. Lebanon's population was around 20,000. Now it's about 40,000. We've doubled. If anybody out there is looking at their iPhone because you're tired of hearing me talk, back in 2001, there was no iPhone. There was no Facebook. George W. Bush was entering his first year as president. He was inaugurated that year. And I was just looking up, he's 75 years old now. For those of you who may have watched this show with your kids or grandkids, Bob the Builder debuted that year. The first Harry Potter movie came out. There's been a bunch of those since. In the sports world, tragedy struck the Daytona 500 when Dale Earnhardt crashed on the final lap. Here's something that's sort of shocking. In the NFL that year, the New England Patriots starting quarterback Drew Bledsoe got hurt in the second game, and his backup, Tom Brady, started the third game. And that's where Tom Brady's career started. And something that's more closer to my heart, that year my team, the University of Tennessee, went to the SEC championship game. If they won, they would have gone to the Rose Bowl to play Miami for the national championship. They were upset by LSU, who was coached by Nick Saban, who had yet to win a single national championship. In other words, 2001 was a long time ago. A lot's happened since then. There's something else important happened in 2001. That was the last year that the city of Lebanon built an athletic field for our youth. It's time to invest in our youth again and for that to change. A few years ago, this city council purchased a piece of property on 231 South, and a committee of citizens was put together to design a sports complex. Last year, I asked the council to approve the design for phase one of that complex. And that phase one would be soccer fields. Now, why soccer fields? Well, as many of you know, our soccer fields are currently at the Lebanon Municipal Airport. At the time, I guess that seemed like a good idea. I could tell you the TDOT Aeronautics Division did not think very highly of it. In fact, as soon as it happened, TDOT banned that from ever happening again. No other city or county or entity could put athletic fields on airport property. Our airport has grown through the years. I asked Heather Bay to give me some stats. She couldn't go all the way back to 2001, but I'll tell you this, she went back to 2008. In 2008, our airport had 5,800 aircraft operations, and what that means is that's landings and takeoffs. So there are 5,800 landings and takeoffs at our airport in 2008. Last year, there were 60,000. That's how much our airport has grown. That's how busy it is. So why soccer fields? It's all about safety. How many times have you gone out there and watched kids play soccer and watched airplanes taking off and landing right behind them? I've done it. Our daughter Isabella, she played, we watched airplanes. My nephews played, we watched airplanes. It is a disaster waiting to happen. So phase one is soccer fields. Now, I announce this today because in a few weeks, I'm going to present the City Council the design of phase one of those soccer fields. And that same night, I'm going to present to City Council a funding plan that will not include a tax increase to pay for the soccer fields. That work session is coming up soon, and I look forward to it. I've talked about a lot today. All the things I've talked about has depended on the hard work of a lot of people. I thank the employees, many of them are sitting down here on the front row, for what they do every day. As I said earlier, we see a lot of them city employees out in public. There's a lot that sit in offices, that do work. It's very important to keep this city running and to provide to you what you need. So I thank them. I also thank all the boards and committees of citizens who volunteer to be part of this process, because that's an important part of this work too, and that's work that a lot of people will never see. And I also thank the council for all the work they do. Being a counselor is more than just showing up twice a month for city council meetings. It takes work, it takes dedication. So I thank Joey Carmack for his work. He is Mayor Pro Tem. He also serves on the Airport Commission. I thank Fred Burton. He serves on the Airport Commission. Camille Burdine, she serves on the Infrastructure Committee. And also, she has spearheaded improvements around the square, in the alleys, behind the quadrants. I thank Chris Crowell. He serves on the Planning Commission. He actually volunteered for that. And he also serves on the Merit Pay Committee. And I think Tick Bryan, he serves on the Infrastructure Committee and also on the ADA Committee. And I thank Jean-Lane Brinkman, because she was very instrumental in putting that park master plan together that I mentioned earlier. When I started this speech today, I mentioned coming here as a kid to watch movies. I saw Star Wars here. That's the first time I ever saw it. But there's another movie I saw here too that taught me a valuable lesson: Smokey and the Bandit. And the thing I learned from Smokey and the Bandit was keep the pedal to the metal. And I promise you that's what we're going to keep doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Bell. I think we can all agree our city seems to be in very good hands, and we appreciate all you and the rest of the staff does. So thank you. I also want to thank, because events like this don't just happen by themselves, I want to thank the chamber staff, Melanie and all her crew, for all their work for putting this together. And I do want to announce a couple of upcoming events for the chamber. On April 11th, we're going to sponsor the Wilson County Mayoral Candidate Forum that'll be held at Cumberland University between the two candidates for Wilson County Mayor. April 14th at 11 a.m., Jay Claiborne's ribbon cutting ceremony. April 21st, Wilson Books Birth Imagination Dinner, always a popular event. April 28th, the Hearthside Senior Living will host business after hours. April 29th and 30th, two big events for the Sports Council: the Chamber Annual Tennis Tournament. I will not be playing in that. And April 30th, the 13th Annual Two Rivers Ford Open Bass Tournament. I wish I could do that, but unfortunately I can't this year. There'll be more details on these chamber events. Just check the website. That's always constantly updated with all the events. We thank you very much for coming today. We thank Bob Black for the use of the Capitol Theater again. And that concludes our program for today. Thank you very much. Travel safe.